Matt Wyatt with all the good stuff you need to know. Right here on the Zone 105.9 and worldwide at thezone1059.com.
Well. Stand up and be counted on this. Well, it ain't Monday. I almost said Reaction Monday. It's not Reaction Monday. It is actually Reaction Tuesday. Okay. It's Reaction Tuesday, even though we normally have Reaction Mondays. But since it was Labor Day, we didn't get to have one. And so we're having a Reaction Tuesday today here in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go! With the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance across the great state of Mississippi. Your hometown heroes at your local Farm Bureau Insurance agents. Well, stand up and be counted. Raise your hand, okay, if you had LSU winning the national championship. Come on. Raise your hand if that's you. It's the Florida State band version of the Chop. Whatever you call this. Come on. Listen, LSU didn't just get beat on Monday night. I'm sorry, on Sunday night. They got bullied and knocked around and shoved around like, I'm talking, I couldn't believe it. To that extent, I really couldn't believe it. So that was one thing. All right, so look, here's the deal, y'all. I have no earthly idea where to start on this day. You're going to have to kind of help me with what direction you want to go here. And we can go any number of directions. And we've got, thankfully, 2 whole hours to go any direction we want to go. But you've got the opener for State. You got the opener for Ole Miss. I didn't see any of Ole Miss's, but you can take a look at the score and kind of tell how that one went. You've got Colorado and Deion Sanders beating TCU in that first game. I didn't watch it live. I listened to it on the radio, actually. I listened to the TCU radio broadcast, a good portion of it, as I was in the car on Saturday. And, of course, didn't see the results. And so I went back over the weekend, went back and watched the game. And you talk about fun to watch. I mean, that I can only imagine what it was like to watch that game live between Colorado TCU and watching Shedeur Sanders go off and set a school record with yards passing, 500-something yards passing, 4 TDs. He was so good and really upstaged only by Travis Hunter, the Jackson State transfer who played all those snaps for Colorado. And it was just, okay, so I can only imagine what it was like watching it live, because even knowing the result and watching the replay was an incredibly fun game to watch when you hadn't seen the actual plays, and listening to Gus Johnson call it on Fox. The whole thing was outstanding. So that, blew everybody's top off. Milroe and Alabama, they played Middle Tennessee, but that guy, I've been telling you, he is an unreal athlete. He's next level. Look, he's playing quarterback, and all the coaches at Alabama say he's the fastest player on their football team. And he kind of showed that off a little bit. And so, look, go ahead and, if he's healthy, he's automatic, buy a ticket, sit down, must watch. Milroe, this guy at Alabama, he is unreal, okay? He really is. He's the next thing. And, so there's so many different places and directions you can go. Clemson losing last night to Duke, and they didn't just, people are saying, well, this is an upset. Well, why? Why was it an upset? Are you saying that Duke was, that Duke beating Clemson was a quote-unquote upset because Clemson was ranked in the preseason and Duke wasn't? Find me a better example of how dumb preseason polls are. There's your example right there last night. Okay, because I'm telling you, Duke is a much better football team than Clemson. They could play that game. I watched every snap of it. They could play that game 10 times, and Duke's going to win all 10 of them. You hear me? Run, tell it. They can play it in Clemson. Duke's going to beat them every time. They're a better team. They are. So you can call it an upset if you want to. Again, Anywhere you want to go, that stuff's good with me. I have, in several different shapes, forms, and fashions, taken a look at and sort of, analyzed and broken down State's game against CLA. They very much overmatched them. CLA is actually a pretty good FCS team, but State kind of overwhelmed them once they got their legs under them, got going. I had a recap video put on YouTube yesterday, a film study. It's 15 plays from the game went up on the YouTube channel. So many of y'all may have already seen that. You may be, since that happened all the way back on Saturday, you may be ready to move on, but certainly that's on the table too. So anything you want to get into today is cool with me. And so a quick reminder, there are several ways for you to be a part of the show, and I hope you will be today. It's a Reaction Tuesday. It kind of feels like a Monday. Happy Labor Day, belated. Hope you had a good one. Enjoy the day off. You can text the show on the Country Pleasin' text line. Country Pleasin' sausage on grocery store shelves all around the Southeast. It is the best. Walk up in there and say, Country Pleasin', please. They'll know what you're talking about. They'll hook you up. The number to text, 885-3776. 601 number, 885-3776. Another way to remember the text line is 885-ESPN. Got it? 885-ESPN. Also, call me on the Davini phone, Davini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson, your Kubota dealer. The number to call, 995-1059. Got it? 995-1059. That'll get you in here. I get to hear your voice. We can just chat it up together here on the phone line. And then also comment on the live stream. Hey to y'all. If you're on the live stream, hey to you on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Drop a comment on the Murray West live stream. Just type it in, hit it, and it pops up on my Murray West live thread right here. Speaking of thread, if you have some sort of need for custom apparel, and then maybe let's just use this hat as an example. See this handy dandy hat I'm wearing with the MW logo? It stands for Matt Wyatt. No, it doesn't. It really stands for Murray West. Okay. They are a local company to Mississippi here, a great company that's been specializing in custom apparel for, count up the years, all the way back to 1996. They can do, medium-sized jobs all the way up to the very big jobs. They're working with folks like Ole Miss Athletics and Gentile and all points in between. And they do a fine job with all types of embroidery and screen and anything you might need. So check them out, murraywest.com. That's Murray, M-U-R-R-Y. There's no E in there. There ain't no E in Murray. M-U, or A for that matter. M-U-R-R-Y, murraywest.com. And if you haven't already, follow them on Instagram at Murray West Official, the Murray West live thread. And we're going to get to a bunch of those. So everybody's already getting in here. Will, Sven, Gene on Facebook, JS290, Vern, Gail, John, Ralph, Chuck, coming to everybody. Okay? Coming to everybody. Let me hit the text line here real quick. First up, PT for MSU. I got your link, and I had not seen this. The first text I got today is something that I need to take time to read all the details, and then we can discuss it. But there's a story out there about a former Florida football player who's suing everybody because there was like guaranteed money in an NIL deal that he's not getting that somehow involves his NFL prospects. And so thanks for sending that along, PT. I had not seen it, and I will read it and kind of get versed on it pretty soon. J-Rock, listen, I had not seen this, and this is an absolute punch in the gut here. J-Rock just texted the show and said, hey, Matt, I didn't know if you saw this, but Coach Shanks passed away. You talking about Coach Doug Shanks, who would call the show quite often? We got to hear from him a lot here on the show. I didn't know that. I had no idea. So that just kind of, that stops me dead in my tracks. It really does. J-Rock. If you have any details that you want to or can share with me, I'd love to have those. I didn't know. Really, really, really enjoyed talking to and hearing from Coach Shanks. Hogjow, Country Pleasing text line says, wow, we fans and sports writers sure do overact. He said, after only week 1, all I've heard this morning is fire Brian Kelly. Dabo must go. Coach Prime is coach of the year. He said, I wonder what's going to happen week 2. It's so true. And speaking of that, okay, Hog Jowl, like minds here. Like minds. Beaver. My man Beaver said the same thing to me before we started the show today. He said, Matt, I'm just thinking about all the stuff that people are going to overreact to today after 1 week of football. Hey, Beaver.
Hey, Matt, why?
You see what Hog Jowl sent us on the text line?
Yeah. It's a big overreaction week.
Yeah, so maybe I should have titled the live stream over here Overreaction Monday.
Yeah. But
So
remember we had talked about that last Monday.
Yep.
Actually, because you were talking about, we're in game week. And I says, yeah, we're also about to experience some crazy overreaction 8 days from now. That was last Monday.
Right. That was and you're right. Here we are 8 days later. And just like Hog Jowl said, he's seeing people going, fire Brian Kelly at LSU, get rid of Dabo at Clemson. Coach Prime is obviously going to be the coach of the year. And then now we get to go watch week 2. Let's see, Hog Jowl, you're not the only one who's thought about the overreaction stuff. Tim texts the show, says Coach Bowden is smiling. That was a beatdown in the second half. It was ever more a physical. That's the thing about it. It wasn't like Florida State just made plays against LSU. They also physically just pushed them around and bullied them. Line of scrimmage, linebackers, safeties, hits on ball carriers, harassing the quarterback. I didn't expect to see all that. You could certainly see a path where they lose, but not like that. Got taken out behind a woodshed and just beat up by Florida State. They really did. Unnamed texter, Country Pleasing text line says, remember when I said it boils down to the LSU game for State? Well, I take that back. It might boil down to the State game for them. Haha, they look like hot garbage. Well, see, and that's the thing, too. I really came away from it feeling like it was a deal where Florida State looked that good. I mean, especially you watch the first half, LSU has players. People are really down on Daniels. I didn't think he played terribly. Maybe he missed a play or two, but I didn't think he played awful. In fact, I thought he did a lot of really good things. It's just I thought Florida State just was that much better. Florida State looked world class. I know it's one game, okay, but I really don't come away from that game of going LSU is hot garbage. I don't think they are. I think they're actually pretty good. I think they're going to win a bunch of games. I just think Florida State was that much better. I'm willing to give them credit until we see otherwise. It's funny how we react to those different things that way. All right, flip it over here. The Murray West live thread. Check them out. Custom apparel, embroidery. Right here in Mississippi and New Albany, a great family-owned company that has grown and grown, and they're doing big things, and they'll do big things for you. Check them out, murraywest.com. Will commented on YouTube and said, Hail State, Matt, the only thing better than a long weekend is a long weekend with college football. And he said he enjoyed the film study and the recap of the C-Log game. You can find all of that over there on YouTube if you want to check that out on the YouTube channel. I hadn't seen it already. Sven is in from Germany on the Murray West live thread. He says Jaden Daniels is not the answer. Says he was overwhelmed and seriously helpless. Well, see, again, I didn't watch it and feel like he was, tremendously overwhelmed or helpless himself. I just felt like Florida State was that much of a better football team than the one he was playing on. That's the way it looked. It's actually, again, it's less of a knock on LSU and more of a nod to Florida State. They looked great. Gene commented on Facebook, said North Carolina and Florida State were auditioning to join the SEC. Well, I promise you, they both fit right in. I mean, North Carolina made South Carolina look bad. Here's what I will say about this. Some of the way that I hear people reacting to LSU, some of the things they're saying about LSU in that Florida State game is how I actually felt about South Carolina in the North Carolina game. is I thought they did look bad, and I thought Rattler did look a little bit overwhelmed, and I did not think I came away feeling like they're that, as good a team as somebody said they might be. And you're pointing to their win over Clemson last year, but what about Clemson? All this stuff is tied together in one way or the other. Will said, Matt, have you been able to check out any of the Colorado games? Shedeur and Travis Hunter were better than expected. Okay. On that note, I like I said a minute ago, I listened to it on the radio on Saturday, a portion of it. Then I see the final score. When I got back home, I went back and watched the game over again. And even knowing the result, watching the game was so much fun. Two offenses going back and forth. We'll see what the teams do against the rest of their schedule. But this I do know. You just haven't seen a bunch of athletes come through college football like Travis Hunter. He's next level receiver. He's next level out there at corner. He does stuff that others just don't do, right? He catches balls you're not supposed to catch. All of that kind of stuff. But he's not all they have. If you're not careful, Will, like if somebody didn't watch it, what you're saying, and you came away, you might get the impression that this was all the Travis Hunter show. Let me tell you something. They've got a good offense. They got a big tight end who's a threat. Their offensive line was good. I love their backs. They had 2 or 3 other receivers that are really good, and they all were elevated by Shedeur Sanders. That kid, you talk about making a step and growing throughout his career. Man, in that game, I think the thing that impressed me the most about Sanders was the times that he did have people around him, collapsing pocket, even at times getting hit or pressured. It didn't affect him at all. Mechanically, he's so good. You know what he looked like to me? Now, this is going to be a strange comparison for a lot of y'all, but for some it won't. But just trust me on it. When it comes to these kind of things, I generally have confidence in what I'm looking at, my opinions on this. And I bet you could go back and watch it and you'd say, oh, I see some similarity here. He is like a Teddy Bridgewater with much more juice in his arm. If you go back and watch Bridgewater when he was in college at Louisville, we forget that he was a really high draft pick. He's won a bunch of games in the NFL, started, had the catastrophic injury that interrupted his NFL career. But Bridgewater in college was ultra, ultra accurate. It was one thing that was so cool about watching him is he made it look easy. And mechanically, he was always the same. He never got his feet out of line, everything. So technically, from a quarterback standpoint, Bridgewater was fun to watch. But he was so, precisely accurate with the football and on time, and it's such a catchable ball and a pretty spiral all the time. And, I enjoyed watching him play. But when you would watch Bridgewater back then, it would jump out at me just how, precision he was and accurate he was in college, and he'd make things look easy, and how consistent his mechanics were. But you never watched him and go, oh, boy, that deep ball right there was powerful. But you watch Shedeur Sanders, you feel the same way. Mechanics are always right, kind of prototypical. His play in the position is not getting up too down. And at times there'd be people around him and it's boom, and it's 40, 45, 50. He is fun to watch. I just enjoyed watching it. They're really good. I mean, genuinely really good. What else we got here? All right, let's go to Facebook. Vern is tuning into the show, watching. Forever Bulldog listening from Melbourne, Florida. Well, welcome to the show. From down there in the Sunshine State. Gail said hello to us on Facebook as well on the Murray West live thread. John said, what do you think about the Spivey situation with the NCAA? We talked about that last week some, John, and, I think it is a little bit ridiculous, but, I understand why they're not playing him. You can't play him or else they won't let you go to a bowl game. You need to go to a bowl game. And maybe they get him eligible. I talked to some people this weekend that felt like, that maybe there's a chance they figure out a way to get him eligible during the year at some point, just not here, at the beginning of the year. More on the comments on the Murray West live thread coming up. For now, back over to the Country Pleasing text line. Blaine from Kosciuszko said his Georgia Bulldogs looked kind of sickly. And there's some transition going on over there, right? Particularly at quarterback. But they're going to be fine. They're so loaded. They're going to be fine. Big D text the show, said Beaver was way off on Coach Prime, though. Yeah, so far. So far. Let's see what happens in week 2, week 3. Right, Beaver?
Yes, Big D was the first one. I knew it. Yes. So people have quite a sad desire these days to say, "Oh, you were wrong. You were wrong."
Wrong.
About the game, I was wrong. I was wrong. I picked them to lose. I was wrong. But people that really listen, and don't just hear what they want. My problem with Deion Sanders the whole time is just that he just runs his mouth. He doesn't even talk like a normal human being. And that part didn't change. I don't know if you saw him at the press conference, but it was ridiculous.
I did see some of that.
That part I'm not wrong about and never going to be wrong about because I view that as trash. But yeah, game-wise, I thought they were going to lose. I was wrong. Oh, no, I picked a football game wrong.
Well, and look, it was a back-and-forth deal, too. It took a late fourth-quarter deal. And, man, that Shedeur Sanders is just he is a light show. He is a laser light show. Just get your popcorn, man. So hats off to them. And yes, I got a text here. Unnamed texter said, how about Juice Kiffin fetching the kicking tee? I promise you, maybe the best thing I saw on X all weekend was when that dog, Kiffin's dog, runs off the sideline and picks up the tee and brings it back. It is the best thing ever. The dog is totally focused and, unencumbered by any of the crowd or the noise. It was awesome. There was a lot of awesome this weekend, and we're going to continue to get in on that when we come back. I'm Matt. Just getting started on this Tuesday. Stick around.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal that tastes grand, the cereal that's All-Bran, a breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing, it's a fun thing, it's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing, it's a wing wing. A brand new transcript fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing, a fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the $67.95 Mazda SE5. Introducing Mazda SE5 Plus 5. $625 worth of extra features at no extra charge from Mazda. You get a bed liner, mud guards, sliding rear window, floor mats, and AM/FM stereo. That's a $625.
All right, back with you. Here we go. More comments, opinions, otherwise reaction to the weekend of college football, the opening weekend. So thanks for tuning in here on this Tuesday. I'm Matt in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go! With the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance all across the great state of Mississippi. A text on the country pleasing text line. 885-3776. That's the number to text, 885-3776. Don from Madison said, Matt, any idea where there was no replay shown at the state game on Saturday? We would have been good to actually see the block punt again. Yeah, I don't know. I noticed that, I'll be honest with you, Don, like from my perspective, I'm in the radio booth, right? And we have a television up on the wall behind us to the side. And in years past, we would always, before the replay thing actually got up and going, it used to be a little more hit or miss, and it wasn't as consistent. And we would keep the television broadcast of the game going on that television in the booth because you'd watch the play live. But then I could turn around and then look at it on TV, and there's always a slight delay, so I'd kind of see the play again. I could watch what I wanted to watch. And I got away from doing that the last 2 to 3 years because at the home games in Davis Wade, every play was shown in replay up on a video board in one angle or another. So I stopped looking at the TV. We'd watch the play happen. If I wanted to see a replay, I just look at the video board. And so Saturday, it was odd that they weren't doing it. And so when I realized after a few plays they weren't giving us replays, I turned around and looked at our television, and we didn't have it on the TV broadcast. It was just on the in-house feed, which is the same as the video board. And eventually we switched that over, and we just started using that. And, yeah, so I don't know the answer to that, and I wonder if there's a reason or if it was just a flub on somebody's part. All right. Beer Slayer Texas Show said LSU quit on Brian Kelly. They gave up. Could be trouble if it continues in Stark Vegas. Well, it could be. Florida State made LSU submit physically in that second half. You cannot say that often, really, over the years about an LSU team. They've lost some games, but I haven't watched many where a team made them submit, like tap out. Florida State did that to them in that second half. Now, you can turn it around. It's a non-conference loss if you're LSU. They can be a good football team for sure. Last year they turned it around, went on and beat Alabama. And again, I'll bring it up. Somebody mentioned it. Juice Kiffin, the dog, fetching the tee on the fest. It was the best thing I didn't see any of their game. I didn't get to. You could see the final score and know what it was about. But when I saw the video of this thing of this dog sprinting off the side to get the tee and sprinting back, and I saw someone posted the transcript of Lane Kiffin being asked about that in the postgame, and in one he said he didn't even know what was going to happen. So it's his dog. He had no idea that they were doing that. But he also mentioned Wild Rose Kennels just outside of Oxford there, having trained him, and he'd seen him do it with ducks and everything, which that place and that story of that place is unbelievable also. But I have a soft spot for dogs. Watching that dog run out there and get the tee was awesome. We need more of that. Let's get some other animals, train them up, see what happens. Maybe. Louvier texts the show. What's up, Louvier? He said LSU had the ball on the 5-yard line after 2 plays. They got 0 points. That, in my opinion, was a very ominous way to start. Well, again, it spoke to sort of the physicality of Florida State. I agree. Ominous way to start. But he said on a different subject, Travis Hunter is a man. 129 snaps in the Texas Heat, and he was a real force on both sides of the ball. He said, color me impressed, sign Go Saints. 129 snaps, and after the game said he wanted to keep playing. He's fine. He's good to go. Let's play some more. Fletcher texted the show, said, Matt, I agree with you. FSU looks really good. As a State fan, I kind of hate that LSU got manhandled like that. Now they're going to come to Starkville playing for their pride. And it's true. It's true. Their pride got challenged the other night. And they got some pride to play for the rest of the way. Bama fan texted the show and said, what did he say? And I am not going and have not overreacted to Alabama's quarterback play. Jalen Milroe reminds me of Vince Young. Said he's pretty darn good. That's why Saban has been smiling. Ha, ha, ha. Ohio State is garbage, he says. He says no overreaction to the Alabama quarterback play. That is why Saban has been smiling. Okay, here's the thing. Who does he remind you of? I think he's much faster than Vince Young ever thought about being. That's what I think about Milroe and those throws that he made. And one of them, he gets just absolutely tattooed and planted and throws a 45, 50-yard touchdown. I saw some practice at Alabama a few years ago when he was first there, and his mechanics are so tight and so perfect throwing a football. And he's not built like a typical, lanky quarterback. He's muscular. He's built like a running back, and he runs like a running back. They say he's the fastest guy on the team. And you could see, and I've said it here, as a coach, the pressure's on you. You got to get an athlete like that coached up. Because if you do, and it starts to click up here, then look out. Now, that was Middle Tennessee. He'll play better defenses. But, an athlete like that with confidence, hey, look out. That's all I'm going to say about that. Look out. All right, let's see what we have here. Back over on the Murray West live thread on the live stream. You got folks on YouTube. You got folks on Twitter, folks on Facebook commenting, putting stuff in here. Timothy commented on the Murray West live thread. He goes, his rankings are 1 Bama, 2 FSU, 3 Vols. How about that? JS290 said, I enjoy Coach Prime being Coach Prime. There you go. There's a fan of Coach Prime right there. Timothy went ahead and said it. He said the silent part out loud. Timothy said, who's going to be Florida's new coach next year? Who's that going to be? I don't know. You think they'll be looking? Now, here we have a comment on YouTube from Mississippi Delta Boy on the Murray West live thread. It says, my opinion is we're going to go back to the Dan Mullen type of offense. Then we need to start Mike Wright, and he thinks the new Florida coach will be Deion Sanders. Mike Wright for Mississippi State, backup quarterback, got a few snaps the other day. The team's second leading rusher, lightning fast, had a 50-plus. All he needed was that one block at the end. It's a score. Just about every carry he had went for at least a first down, didn't it? And he's such a change of pace. And, it's obvious that in this scheme, you go out there and it's the first, Woody goes for over 100 yards rushing. First time you have a 100-yard rusher since prior to the air raid. First time you had a 300-yard rushing performance as a team prior to the air raid. And so that being the identity and tight ends getting in there and, you're running it more. Then you can't have an athlete and a player like Mike Wright, who is a senior, who anybody that's been out there and been around him, the kid's a leader. Like, he's locked in. He's team first. He's a ball of energy. And one of your fastest players, right up there with the fastest on offense, with a lot of experience that can easily take snaps and do stuff. They didn't throw a single pass with him the other day, just ran the ball and let him read stuff. You have to use that guy in your offense. You got to use him. And then the key is how and when and how you game plan. So you have another tool, but again, pressure goes back on the coaching staff to week, situationally, matchups, how are we going to use them and do what? Somebody asked me yesterday. They said, they didn't let him throw a single pass in the game the other day. How bad of a passer is he? Well, and my response was, okay, he really struggled throwing the ball. I thought in the spring, I wondered if he had an arm injury or something. He's thrown it much better in fall camp. But when you look, he was the starter at Vanderbilt for 2 years, SEC games and other stuff for 2 years. Now, both years at Vandy, he got hurt. He played in 10 games his first year as the starter. He played in 10 games his second year as the starter. He missed a couple of games in both years because of being banged up and stuff. So in 2 years as the starter at Vandy, 20 games, right at 2,000 yards passing, 20 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, a 2-to-1. So the deal is, Mike Wright is not the passer that Will Rogers is. You can and will do things in the pass game with Will Rogers that you can't do with him. You can and will do things in the pass game and in your offense with Will that you have to do if you want to win games. By the same token, you can do some things with Mike Wright out there that you can't do with Will Rogers out there. So you got to figure out how and when to do it. And can he throw the ball effectively in some games? Yeah. If that offense is running the ball and threatening people consistently, do it. And I think they got a little ways to go. We probably need to get into that next. But if they get there and they continually threaten people running the ball, then Wright is absolutely a guy you can let him throw the ball some in certain situations, give him that option, and really threaten a defense that way too. And he absolutely can do it. And just because he didn't get the opportunity to do it Saturday in the first game of the year, that really doesn't mean anything. Lots of texts and comments, as you can imagine. Recapping the weekend. Stick around.
Have you ever wished for one product that would clean and shine almost everything in your house? Here it is. Clean and Shine. Like magic, Clean and Shine leaves a nice shine on fine wood furniture, so you don't need furniture polish. It cleans and shines mirrors, so you don't need glass cleaner for mirrors. It cleans and shines refrigerators, like this kitchen product. Even countertops, tile, and vinyl. Try new Clean and Shine, the foam that cleans and shines almost everything in your house.
Someday when people look at me, they'll say, there goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was.
TriStar Pictures presents Robert Redford in The Natural, the story of a father and a son.
You got a gift, Roy, but it's not enough.
Of love.
He means the world to me.
And desire.
I'm not waiting for true love to come along, Roy.
A champion.
A Roy Hobbs comes along once, maybe twice in everybody's lifetime.
And his destiny.
With or without the records, they'll remember you.
Best there is now, and best there ever will be.
I wouldn't bet against me.
I already have.
Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, Barbara Hershey, Robert Prosky, and Richard Farnsworth as Red. The Natural.
Do you know me? Would you believe I'm Bugs Bunny? I'm also the voice of many other cartoon characters. But in here, they don't care if I'm Elmer Fudd. So I carry an American Express card, the one card I need for travel and entertaining, for business and pleasure. Why, without this, the only way I'd get any attention is by saying, that's all, folks.
To apply for a card, call 800-528-8000.
The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
The following is a presentation of TBS Sports. Exclusively on Superstation TBS. Superstation TBS presents the Atlanta Braves, America's team. Atlanta Braves baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers. This Bud's for you. By the official airline of the Atlanta Braves, Delta. We love to fly, and it shows. And by Eckerd Drugs, America's family drugstore.
If a man you've never met before suddenly gives you flowers, that's elation. The exciting new fragrance from Impulse.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm think on a friend to get a promotion?
Yeah, yes, yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court.
I'm here to strip for Dan Fielding.
Thursday.
Oh, what a meal, oh.
Hamburger Helper Lasagna.
For your family.
Authentic Italian taste.
Hearty robusto. But not too spicy, eh?
Hamburger Helper Lasagna turns your plain hamburger into a delicious Italian meal with authentic Italian taste. Curly Italian noodles, rich tomato sauce, and a better blend of spices.
Hamburger Helper. Lasagna.
Helper, Hamburger Helper.
Make a great meal, oh.
All right, back with you. Let's get going. This is the way it does. Every year, once football season rolls around and games begin to happen, we'll come back in here on Mondays, and of course, this week of Tuesday because of Labor Day. And it's like we're all going so fast and reacting so quickly, and so many things we want to get into that it's actually hard to get to all of it. And it just seems to really speed up, and then the time goes by quickly. But it sure is nice to hear from everybody. So if you're, texting the show, if you're on the Murray West live thread over there commenting on the live stream, thanks so much. I just really do appreciate it. It makes it so much fun for me, and I hope it does for you as well. And don't forget, you can call me as well. We'll chat it up. Love to hear your voice also. Call me and let me know what you thought about the weekend. On the Davini Equipment phone line, 995-1059. That's the number to text. 995-1 to call. Sorry, that's the number to call. 995-1059. Dennis, formerly of Omaha. Now he's talking about Juice Kiffin, the dog, running out there and getting the tee after the kickoff, which might have been the coolest thing I saw all weekend long. He said, your reference to getting other animals to run out onto the field and get the kicking tee. He says, no cat ever born will submit to such a task. It's true. Okay, you can't train a cat to do it. But there are other animals we could train to do that, I really believe. I mean, a duck, maybe. Can we train a duck to do that? A monkey? I mean, come on. Nick texts the show and says, heck, my dog does that with my workbooks almost every day. I'm not impressed. Yeah. Now, Nunya texts the show on the Country Pleasin' text line at 885-3776. Country Pleasin' sausage. I ate the last of my supply. The last piece I ate was yesterday morning. It was the original smoked sausage flavor. And I'm out. Okay, so I need some more. I need some more badly. Nunya texts the show and says, I'm kind of worried about the state offense. It doesn't seem to to have a spark. Well, here's a couple of observations. Let me know what you think about this, Nunya. They didn't really have a lot of sync and flow, and maybe even lacked just a little bit of confidence in the early part of that first half. Of course, the incomplete on the first third down, it was a really good read. They just didn't hook up on the throw. And that got them off the field, some of those things. But as the game went on, they got more and more confident, and they got stronger, which you would expect. They got a little bit more depth than an FCS team, right? And that's kind of the way that should go. But to your point, I do feel like the old adage of teams will improve between week 1 and week 2 more so than any other week in the year. When I think that needs to happen for State, particularly on offense. They've got a little ways to go offensively. And when I say that, they were really clean. They did not have any penalties on offense. No pre-snap, no false starts, none of that kind of stuff. They were really clean and really sharp in that way. They threw for a high completion percentage. The ball was not on the ground a bunch. They didn't go a ton of incompletes. 70%, I think Will was. They didn't turn it over in the air, no picks. They didn't fumble. They went for 2 touchdowns. They rushed for 300 and a bunch of scores. They did all these, really good things. They played a lot of people too, Nunya. That's the thing about it. I watched the game and all the rotation of personnel thinking at times, when they get in week 2 and week 3, some of this, not all, but some of this rotation at these positions is going to slow down a little bit. Now, tight end's a different story because you can't really rotate a whole lot there, but they're still on a little bit in that first game atmosphere, different opponent. Even though you sort of overmatch them, I still feel like was a little bit of a fact-finding mission for the whole team and for the staff. So, I think offensive line too, the players are there. I'll be honest with you, I'm not so sure that they don't have a couple of young offensive tackles who are really pushing and making a case for some playing time. And so we'll see. Maybe they start to get that. Generally as the season goes on, you're going to feel more comfortable with experience versus inexperience. But I like all the pieces. I love the running back room. I wish that they had gotten a ball to Justin Robinson on the outside a little more. You'd love to see them get Roberson involved just a little more, but that's just going to require finding those opportunities and not missing them. They tried to go to Robinson for a touchdown post, and he got it open, and Will missed him. He just missed him. Ball sailed backfield on him, across the field or up the field instead of across the field. A few things like that. But, I would say that I didn't come out of it worried about the offense at all. I just came away from it going, okay, I bet they whittle some of the personnel options down by the time they get to week 3 when you're going to play a conference game. But I bet also they'll be a whole lot more confident in what they're doing to start a ball game than they were this past week. That's kind of how I feel about it. And I think they're going to need to be. I think your offensive line's got to play better overall. They did a pretty decent job, certainly, as the game went on. And, you go put up 500 yards of offense and, 41 offensive points and high completion percentage, no turnovers, and 0 penalties in a ball game. I think you got something to work on, work with there. And to your point directly, Nunya, you say explosive, a spark. I think in the right situations and with the right chemistry, I think your sparks on offense are 14, Mike Wright, 85, the freshman Whittemore, and 5, Tulu. And we didn't get to see Xavion out there either. We didn't. He's supposed to come back this week. And And Seth Davis at running back's the kind of guy who, from a speed standpoint, can do some of that stuff for you too. But you can't get Woody off the field, and you're not going to. He's your every down offense going through him. He is a yards maker. And so there's some thoughts on it. Let me know what you think. I'd love to know what you think. Let's head over to the live stream, the Murray West live thread. Let's see what we have over here. Here's what Mississippi Delta Boy said. Mike Wright would be like Chris Relf with this type of offense we are running. And a big difference is, Mike Wright would, from a speed standpoint, run circles around Chris Relf. Chris Relf would just run over you. It could be 4th and 3, and they would like look at the defense and go, hey, Chris is keeping it here, and just keep it. He'd still make 3.5 and get a first down. 240-pound quarterback just running through people. So two different types, maybe similar in terms of, scheme or approach, but that'd be about it. Sven commented and said Wright can't throw the deep ball. With him as a starter, every team loads the box and we are cooked. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he hit some in the pay. He's capable. It's just about consistency. It's not about, are you capable of doing it once? No, can you consistently do it 15 times in a row? If you can, you have something. If you can't, then it's really hit or miss is kind of what that's about. Jimmy on YouTube said, the O-line didn't look lost. That was my biggest takeaway. They got better as the game went on. Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. Yeah, better as the game went on and just got a little more confident. What I really like, too, is the team as a whole. They were up and kind of in control of the game, whatever, but they hadn't really played their best in the first half by any stretch. And, man, they came out of the locker room and were on both sides of the ball were much more physical. It's like we heard Jay Perry came to us. He's our sideline reporter on the radio broadcast, and he said, hey, in the locker room there, there's a little bit of scheme, but mainly Coach Turner and some of the guys were just saying, look, guys, you got to be more physical. Get off blocks, make blocks, throw blocks. Be more physical than them. Play a little harder than you're playing. And boy, did they ever in the second half. Defense was just dominant in the second half. And I thought, even offensively more physical. I got a tweet here from Jeff that said Pittman was a workhorse. And, yeah, the few carries that he got, I was really impressed. The running back group is loaded now. They're good and physical, and they seem to really fit the scheme. And really probably should say it the other way around. The scheme really seems to fit them. Like you could tell they identified, okay, this is a good group, and we're going to kind of build it around them. Jason in Flagstaff, Arizona says, just how well does he, meaning Mike Wright, need to throw the ball when the defense starts coming up to stop him running? He said Darren McFadden threw the ball like a 6-year-old girl, but it worked with no defense back there. And that's it. I mean, like, really, if you're really gashing them with your run game and threatening them with your run game, then you can get people open and you'll get those opportunities. He will throw some when he's in there for sure. But it's such a change of pace. It's going to really help you on 3rd and 1s. You get across the 50, getting a 3rd and 1, put him in there, and then they jump all over your run game and defend it, and then you get that one-on-one and try to throw a bomb, and some of that stuff's going to happen. The run game creates all that for you. That's hour 1. Wow. Where'd it go? In the books. Hour 2 coming up right after this in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Stick around.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm fink on a friend to get a promotion?
Yeah, yes, yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court. Thursday.
For over half a century, dairymen have tried to capture in cans the flavor of pure, fresh milk. And now Foremost has discovered the secret with an evaporated milk that's closest by far to fresh milk itself.
Kind of hard to believe, isn't it? An evaporated milk that doesn't have that old-fashioned evaporated milk taste. But it's true, and you can prove it. You know how most evaporated milks taste in coffee. The flavor goes flat. But try Foremost. You'll see it's white, the way milk ought to look, not drab tan like other brands. And when you taste it, well, if you're anything like me, you'll never even know it isn't pure, fresh cream. You try it and see. That's Foremost, the closest thing in cans to pure, fresh milk. Remember, your family gets the most from Foremost.
Coca-Cola, come on, girl. Gotta share a Coke with you. Let the feeling show through. You wanna live a little bit more. That's what the taste of Coke is for. Coke is life. Everybody wants a little life. Coca-Cola, Coke is life. Everybody wants.
Come on, Harry, come on. We're getting our picture taken.
Special moments. Times of your life you'll want to remember. In pictures.
Smile, Howard. Smile.
To help make those pictures look as good as they can, make sure Kodak paper is behind them. If you don't see these words, it isn't Kodak paper. Just look for this sign when you get your pictures. Kodak paper, for a good look at the times of your life.
See, wasn't that fun?
Come and get it. Come and get
Stop the confusion. Stop the confusion. Everybody wants to get into the act with Kellogg's Variety Pack. Buster wants the cornflakes. Pop wants a pep. Mama loves the Raisin Bran. Mama is hip. Sister loves Rice Krispies. And there's Uncle Jack. He loves Kellogg's shredded wheat. Kellogg's makes it fun to eat. Breakfast with Variety Pack. Okay, folks, there's your favorite individual box of cereal, fresh from Kellogg's Variety Pack, untouched by human hands, except your own. That don't mean you gotta eat with 'em. Each individual box comes to you FOD, fresh on delivery from Battle Creek, right to your own dish. Yeah, everybody wants to get into the act with Kellogg's Variety Pack. Yes, sir, Kellogg's Variety Pack.
Here comes the one, the delicious one. Heinz is the favorite one. There's only one ketchup with this flavor pouring on. So thick, so rich, so second to none.
Only one ketchup stands for this kind of thickness with this kind of taste. Heinz.
Heinz is the big rich one.
I love the rich, whole wheat goodness of Kellogg's Mini Wheats. But the delicious frosted side makes the rich kid in me open wide.
The nutritious shredded wheat helps keep me on my toes. But the little ballerina in me thinks the taste steals the show.
Kellogg's Mini Wheats, wholesome shredded wheat for the adult in you, great taste for the kid in you. So they're delicious and nutritious.
The whole grain wheat really packs a crunch, but the delicious taste gives it just the right punch.
Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives.
Sherman Ultra Salted.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was, their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right.
and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course..."
And live at the Zone 105.9 and worldwide.
Now, here we go.
At the Zone 105.9.com.
Whoo, boy. Man. There's a lot of folks in here today. Welcome in on the show, in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio, staying connected to you because of C-Spire, the #1 network in Mississippi. C-Spire, customer inspired. More texts and comments, and we can shake a stick at here on this Reaction Tuesday. Get them in here. You can, just a reminder, you can call me on the Divinity Equipment phone line. I get to hear your voice that way. That'd be great. Number to call, 995-1059. Call me on that number. Divinity Equipment in Madison and in Jackson, your Kubota dealer. The oldest Kubota dealer in the U.S., in fact, means they've been doing it better, longer than anyone else right here at home at Divinity. Again, the number to call, 995-1059. What was your reaction to seeing State's offense this weekend and a couple of quarterbacks played and all of that? I'd love to know. On the text line, the country pleasing text line, White Denzel said his observations from the State game. Kyle Ferry as a freshman reminds me of Evan McPherson. Yeah, left-footed kicker, his freshman of the week, hit a 47 and a 49. The one he hit from 49, they iced him with one timeout, and he took a free swing at it a little bit short. Now, they're blowing the whistle as he began to approach the ball, so maybe it affects it. I don't know. But he got another shot at it, and then he nailed the 49er with plenty of room to spare. It had been good from a long way. So that had to be a confidence boost for him, and it's great for the team, for sure. MSU 1980, thanks for the recommendation on a movie called The Hill, faith-based baseball movie. I appreciate you sending that along. Daniel in Madison texts the show. Country Pleasing text line says, I think Creed Whittemore looked incredible. It'll be interesting to see how he plays against SEC defenses. Yeah, the room to run and out in space might be less frequent against those faster SEC defenses, right? Most likely will be. Bill texts the show. Yeah, I haven't watched it yet. Greater. I don't have a lot of time to sit down and watch movies. I'm just going to be honest with you. But I still want to watch it. St. Louis Vic. I got to back up here. He's got a couple of texts he sent in regarding Jackson State, who took it on the chin this past weekend to FAMU, who returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown against JSU. So they were up 7-0 like that. And that was sort of like a momentum, like snowball deal here that propelled them to a little bit of a lead. And if you look, it's like FAMU dominated the first quarter and early part of the game, but really Jackson State, I give them credit. It's a loss, okay? And they did not start the game well. And FAMU looked like a good football team. But Jackson State, to their credit, they dug in. They did not quit. The way the early part of that game went for Jackson State, they could have easily, if they weren't careful, let it really get away from them, and it'd have been the inverse of what they did to FAMU last year, which was put up 50-something and just embarrass them in that game. And there was nothing the other team could really do about it. This one was one that could have gotten away from them like that. But they didn't allow it to happen. Let me go. Here's what I was going to do is pull up and kind of show you how that went. So it was 21-0 at the end of the first quarter. And again, remember, that included the opening kickoff of the game for FAMU. They returned it for a touchdown. And there's this the momentum there. They're up 21-0. Well, after the first quarter, Jackson State outscored them the rest of the ball game 10-7. Now, that may sound like moral victory. Jackson State's not into it. But the point is, they could have laid down and just gotten that thing over with, and it would have been a blowout. But they dug in and began to fight. And the defense, after the first quarter, they played well. They did. They played well after the first quarter. Offense kept pecking around. They had to play two quarterbacks. They just didn't have the same kind of day at quarterback they did in the opener, playing a better team. So, look, it's a loss. Nobody's going to like the way it went if you're a Jackson State fan, but I'm looking at a team, it's the second game of the year. They get credit for they had a lot of fight and a lot of pride, and they dug in and made sure that, they stopped the momentum snowball that was running downhill, and they did. They stopped it. St. Louis Vic texted the show, and he said, Matt, some people there in central Mississippi have been able to see Shedeur up close for a few years, from high school through the few years at Jackson State. He has the tools, and I'm happy they're getting the shine on the national level. And then he said, I tried to tell my fellow Jackson State friends and alums to pump our collective brakes and just wait and see what we really have. He says, I still feel that we have some talent on this team, and relax, we aren't done, but we have work to do. Go Tigers. And, this is a small thing. It's not an excuse for losing a game, but Jackson State had already played a game. And so FAMU had a tape, basically one game of film to scout Jackson State with. Every player, every position, scheme, how they used it, quarterback, all this stuff. This was FAMU's first game. And I know you played them last year, and there's a lot of carryover, but there's also some that doesn't carry over. You had no film of this Florida A&M team to prepare with prior to the game. You're flying in there blind in terms of what they may throw at you and what some of their players may look like. They've got one on you. That's an advantage for them. It's not an excuse at all, but I'm just saying that is part of the reality of it, okay? All right, a few more texts. I'm coming to the phone real quick. Fletcher said, like it or not, at some point this season, we're going to face a pass rush that overwhelms our offensive line. And in those situations, Mike Wright might be better suited to help us win, and maybe so. Right, maybe so. Let's see. Pearl Church texts the show, says, we, Mississippi State, have a new head coach and a new offense. There will be a few growing pains for a few games. Absolutely 100% true. 100% true. David and Brandon said, just now joining the show, I'm dying to hear Beaver's take on Prime. Nobody hated as hard as he did. Signed, David and Brandon. We got a comment on that earlier, and he said, look, so he predicted the game wrong, so what? And it was a high-scoring game. I mean, like back and forth, even into the fourth quarter. All right, more of your texts and then your comments on the Murray West Live thread coming up as well. Right now, we're going to flip it over to the phone, the Deviney Equipment phone line. Deviney Equipment, Madison, and in Jackson. Brando on line one. What's up?
What up, my friend? How are you doing?
Just right. Good to hear from you.
Hey, good to hear from you, too. Hey, if you could just address a couple of things. Obviously, it's first week, true week of football. Of course, I hate week 0. I hate that whole term. But anyway, I want your two impressed. Just pick two impressed football teams that you saw this week, and two not impressed.
Okay.
And let me give you just a real quick take. What I saw, and I was not pulling for Deion Sanders. I refuse to call him Coach Prime. But I will tell you this. That game was not a fluke. That guy reaching out and intercepting at the 9, and Shedeur passing for 510 yards. I know it's not the same TCU, and I was super impressed with Duke last night. They looked like the real deal. Dabo just looked deer in headlights. He just really couldn't even say anything. And that again to me wasn't a fluke. But, I know there are some other games, especially some SEC teams that did not look sharp. But I was just going to get your take on your two most impressive that you saw and least impressive. And I love you guys. Love your show. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. Well, that's a really good question because there's so many that you could potentially take a look at. So number one for me, impressive, was Florida State. And, I don't – you could play some opponents and just start to bully them physically, just kicking their fanny all over the place physically. And you come away from it and go, well, maybe the other team just ain't capable of being that physical. But in this case, it's LSU. Okay, and LSU Okay, maybe they had a few blips here and there, but let me just tell you something. Florida State pounded them and hit them and physically beat them until it's almost like they made LSU submit. I never thought I would see that. Okay, so I was impressed with Florida State. It's tough. I was impressed with Alabama. Now, they're playing Middle Tennessee. But I'm just telling you, that quarterback for Alabama is an electric light show. He is ridiculously fast to go along with the rest of his skill set. It's not fair. He's not fair fast. Okay? And I think they had their act together. And I think that it's week 1. Beaver is exactly right. There's never a time throughout the year where we do more overreacting than we do right now after we've seen one weekend of games. But I go Florida State and Alabama. Okay, I'm impressed with those. Okay, not impressed. And I was impressed with Duke too. And I said this in the first hour, Brando. Duke's a better football team than Clemson right now. If they play that game 10 times, I believe Duke would win 10 of them. They can play it anywhere they want to play. Duke's better than Clemson. So, not impressed. I will go with, and it's easy to pick the ones that lost, right? Not impressed. Clemson, probably right up there at the top of that list with just about anybody else. And I'll probably go Florida. Clemson and Florida. It's 2 easy ones. And, Ole Miss put up 70-some-odd points on an FCS team, and I don't care who you're playing. You score 70 points in 60 minutes. That's pretty good against a live, breathing opponent. I just didn't get to see any of it. All I saw was the clip of the dog Juice running out there to get the tea, and I thought that was the best highlight I saw all weekend. Really. Yeah. What about y'all? That's a really good question from Brando. So after one weekend, answer this for me. You can call, you could text it on the Country Pleasing text line, or you could drop the comment here on the Murray West live thread. If you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, just type it in, and it'll pop up on the live thread right here. Brought to you by Murray West. Contract embroidery and custom apparel right here in Mississippi and New Albany. Check them out, murraywest.com. You need custom apparel, hats, pullovers, whatever. Check out my hat right here. It stands for Matt Wyatt. It really doesn't. It's an MW. It stands for Murray West, but I like to think it's my logo. Check them out, murraywest.com. Follow them on Instagram if you haven't already, at Murray West Official. And they can help you out. Spread the word also. Businesses, big jobs. They're doing Ole Miss Athletics. They're doing Gentile. Lots of different stuff. All right. Yeah, who you impressed with versus who you're not impressed with, huh? Let me know. Let me get in here. Will commented on YouTube on the live thread, said Clemson was unimpressive and the Gators are up there with them. See, I felt the same way. Honorable mention Baylor. Dave Aranda's seat is on fire, he says. What does Larry say here? Georgia played UT Martin and allowed points. I think he said he thinks it's the most FCS. It says most FCS teams that played the Power 5 scored. Let me see. What was the final for that? Well, 7. They scored a touchdown in the fourth quarter. So I didn't understand the last part of that comment. I mean, so you give up a touchdown in the fourth quarter, Georgia's probably playing a bunch of people. I think they're going to be fine. What was Georgia's numbers in the game? Just out of curiosity. Scored 48 points. They're up 7-0 after the first quarter. They were up 10-0 at half. So, it's interesting. Here is Georgia with a new offensive coordinator, right? Right? Because Monken back to the NFL, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback. opening up against a team they overmatched. Georgia's uber talented. We know that. But everybody says you got to go play a real team and real opponent first. You start to figure it out. And with all those loaded up 5-stars, they're up 10-0 at halftime. So it's like first half is, okay, we're trying not to make mistakes and we're trying to be responsible the way we're coached. Second half, they get in the locker room. Coaches say to them, hey, guys, stop thinking and just play. Just line up and play. Just knock them around. Play hard. They go out in the second half, okay, and score, 21 points? 31 points in the second half? Outscore them 31-7 in the second half. And it's very much like the same, thread of the Mississippi State game. Very much the same thing. They're up. They're kind of controlling the game, but it's a little whatever. First half. Second half, just blow the doors off, dominate the last 2 quarters. Some of that's roster size and depth and everything else, too. But you saw that in a bunch of the games. I was watching Arizona's game. Arizona coming into Starkville this week, scouting them. Later today, hopefully I'll have kind of a preview video / film study of Arizona, looking ahead at State's next opponent. I'll put that on YouTube. But they sort of had the same thing. They were playing Northern Arizona. And I think Arizona's much better. Since you saw them early last year, they got better throughout the year last year. Their defense still was not very good last year. And what did they do? They went and brought, I don't know if you know this, but Arizona brought in a ton of transfers in their defensive front seven. They've got like defensive linemen they brought in from UCLA and Oregon and Michigan, Georgia, and one other, Washington. And a couple of linebackers, one from maybe Washington and one from UCLA or something like that. And so they're much bigger in their defensive front seven than they were last year. And I don't think they're going to, just give up yards galore like they did last year. But their game, they really overmatched Northern Arizona. But again, it was like 7-0 for a long time, and then it was really close, and like it was 10-3, and Northern Arizona was trying to score to tie the game in the second quarter, held to a field goal, and then, some things like that. And in the second half, Arizona just overwhelmed them and took off. So we saw a lot of those types of stories with, these really good teams playing teams from a lower division who couldn't match up with them across their depth and that sort of thing. All right, Country Pleasing text line on this Reaction Tuesday. Nickelback texts the show. He calls himself Nickelback. He said, first of all, thanks for the film breakdown. I really enjoy those. Well, thank you. He says, I was watching your breakdown, and you could tell that the offense is going to be really hard to prepare for because there was so much that you could run off of what we did run. And that's it. Yeah, that style of offense, different formations using tight ends and run game is really sort of a cumulative thing, kind of can be throughout the year, where you can do stuff in week one, put it on film, and it actually helps you to get explosive plays off in week two, later down the road, things like that. So, and that's really the case for everybody for the most part. It really wasn't the case in the air raid, but it is in this style of offense kind of for everybody. Nunya texts the show and says, Dabo better cozy up to some NIL money or he's going to be on the hot seat. Yeah, and you would think that they could, right? I mean, you would think at Clemson they could. Let's be honest. Clemson and Dabo, they were cozying up to NIL money before we knew it was called NIL money. We just thought it was called extra benefits. And Fletcher says, Matt, you're right again. Bama's going to whip Texas. What did Texas do? I paid them absolutely zero attention in week one. What did they do? I'm going to look it up right here. Boy, Kansas beat somebody. So Texas beat Rice 37-10. And 21 of their 37 points came in the second half. So they scored 18 in the first half, 21 in the third quarter, didn't score any fourth quarter points. QB throws for 260, running back goes for 55. So this is against Rice. All right. Ewers went 19 of 30, 263 touchdowns. They had one kid rush for 55, another go for 52, so they combined as a team to rush for 158 against Rice. The Rice QB threw a couple of picks. They held Rice to 27 yards rushing. Team stats. Texas against Rice was 6 of 15 on third down. They were 1 of 3 on fourth down. You play Rice and you pile up 458 yards of offense. And the defense did hold them to 27 yards rushing. You reckon Texas is going to hold Alabama to somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know, 27 yards rushing in that game? They had 5 penalties for 40 yards. Time of possession was pretty even. So they win the game going away. Maybe a good start for them. I don't know. Maybe they make a big jump week 1 to week 2. But I would think going into Tuscaloosa, I don't know that I wouldn't feel the same way that Alabama's fixing to light their candle for them. David and Brandon text the show. Here's his impressive versus unimpressive list. He said, impressive, Michigan and Ole Miss. Not impressive, LSU and Clemson. Some people were talking about A&M, and again, I didn't see their game, so I need time to go back and watch some of these things, I think. Brandon texts the show and says, and I never thought I'd ever say this in my lifetime, but that Wyoming game was fun to watch. Yeah, right? Overtime? Wyoming beats Texas Tech in overtime? We're going to have to, as we get closer to the weekend, we'll talk some more about Arizona, but they're a little bit improved. But one thing they did, I didn't realize they had done that. And I saw it. You go watch your game. You're like, who are these players? Well, they went and got a ton of transfers from Power 5 schools into their defensive front seven and proved their size. So we got plenty of time to preview them this week also. More with you, Reaction Tuesday, coming up. Get your comments in. Stick around.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal that tastes grand, the cereal that's All-Bran, a breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
Enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing. It's a fun thing. It's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. It's a wing wing. A brand new transgram fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the $67.95 Mazda SE5. Introducing Mazda SE5 Plus 5. $625 worth of extra features at no extra charge from Mazda. You get a bed liner, mud guards, sliding rear window, floor mats, and AM/FM stereo. That's a $600.
All right, back with you. I'm Matt. Interesting way to look at it here. You got two quarterbacks who played for State, both played well, two entirely different types of players between Will Rogers and Mike Wright. Larry commented on, he's watching the live stream on YouTube, and commented here on the Murray West live thread. Go to murraywest.com. Contract embroidery since 1996. Custom apparel. That's where you need to go. Big or small. And certainly big. They do big jobs as well. If you've got a business, you've got a company, you've got an organization that needs shirts, hats, promotional items, anything, and you want it to be good and not cheap, you want it to last, you want it to be stuff people will wear, that's where you go. Murray West. It's Murry, no E or A, Murry, murraywest.com. Larry said Wright knew what he was getting into when he transferred to State. He will get snaps and be happy. He will make some big plays when we need it. And see, I think that's it. I think that's a really good way to sum it up. They know kind of what the deal is. You know, there are things that they can do in a base offense in the pass game with Will Rogers that one you can't do with Mike, and there are things you have to do to win consistently, okay, in the pass game. And there are things you can do in the run game, and certainly in the QB run game, the QB read game, and the RPO game that you can do with Mike Wright that you can't do with Will. And so, you know, the challenge is, you know, one, for the two guys to, you know, put the team first and trust the coaches that they're doing the best in terms of giving the team a chance to win and score points. And then two, the challenge is for the coaches to figure that out. That's what you pay them to figure out. Yeah. It's good comment, Larry. Appreciate that. Regarding Arizona putting some players in there, we'll get into that. Looking at Mississippi State's next opponent, Arizona coming in there this weekend. Really fast quarterback who ran around all of last year, transferred to Arizona from Washington State. State played against him last year, did a pretty good job, turned him over some. But he made a lot of plays with his legs. He was hard to defend for that reason. And he got better as the year went on. I think, you know, just a little more mature. He does throw the ball really well. He's not the biggest guy, but he's really fast. And, you know, defensively last year they had an issue. They gave up way up over 400-something yards a game last year defensively. They couldn't hang in there with people, and they gave up a lot of yards, right? So one of the biggest areas of improvement was they were not very big, they were not very deep. And so they went out, and like I said, they've added transfers just in their defensive front six and front seven. Big guys from, you know, a lineman from Georgia, a lineman from UCLA, one from Indiana, one from Michigan, like a linebacker from Oregon, another linebacker from UCLA. And so I think they're going to be a little better defensively this time too, or this year too. In my opinion, just looking at it, I think State's going to have its hands full this weekend with Arizona. I really do. And State should have an advantage. I mean, they should. From a personnel standpoint across the board, playing at home, special teams deal, speed at certain positions, running back group, defensive personnel, State should have some advantages. But Arizona is going to be tough. And if State doesn't play well, it could go the other way. I think they're going to have their hands full this weekend. Jason in Flagstaff, Arizona, he commented. He said, yeah, I saw that. They not only got bigger on the D-line, but Arizona picked up a lot of depth pieces on both sides. He said their big problem last year was that they ran out of gas late in the shootout games with Washington and Southern Cal, USC. He says right there otherwise. And they did hold on to beat UCLA. And that's right. UCLA at the time Arizona beat them last year, UCLA was ranked in the top 10, somewhere around 9 or whatever. And that was their best win. Arizona was a 5-win team last year. And if you look in their losses, the problem is giving up 40-something points in all those games. They really had to improve. They lost their best receiver to the transfer portal who went to where? USC? I think their leading receiver went to USC, but they got some pieces back. Get the quarterback back. They got 2 or 3 running backs that look pretty good to me. And I think, And oh, by the way, again, if you're into the knocking on wood deal, you might want to knock on wood before I say this. But the forecast, have you looked ahead? You're like, don't do it, Matt. Matt, do not jinx this for us. But I'm looking at it right now. It says Saturday. Now, keep in mind, you got a 6 p.m. game, so a lot of this will be after the sun goes down. But they're saying Saturday in Starkville, it is a high of 87 and a low of 63 degrees. Come on. You might have to put long sleeves on. You believe that? And we were told there was another heat wave coming, but apparently prayer works. Right? St. Louis Vic texts the show, Country Pleasing text line, says that he didn't get to see either State or Ole Miss thanks to the cable dispute. He said, but I was able to listen to you guys. No breakdown for me on those. He said, but the Mustard Buzzards better look out facing FSU. Love you guys. Yeah, Southern Miss really put it on Alcorn this week. Southern Miss looked good. And as you would expect, they, better team, better program, beat Alcorn State 40-14. They were ahead 27-7 at halftime, outscored them 13-7 in the second half. 40-14 the final score. Quarterback for Southern Miss, pretty good day, Billy Wiles. 21 of 28, 267, 3 TDs, 1 pick. A bunch of guys got in on the run game for them. 145 yards rushing as a team. Now, Frank Gore Jr. was not their leading rusher. He went 6 carries, 29 yards, and a touchdown. Had a long run of 18, but Rodriguez Clark, 9 carries, 54 yards, long of 35. And if you're Southern Miss and you could keep Frank Gore fresh after week 1, then absolutely you do that, right? Because he's going to be your offense is going to go through him the rest of the year, and especially this week playing a Florida State team that is really good and really confident. So, remember the Southern Miss sort of theme back in the day was anyone, anytime, anywhere in terms of who and where they would play. And they're going to get a face full of that this weekend. Go to Tallahassee. Fan base will be livid after they just whipped LSU in that one. White Denzel, Texas show says, are we sure that Jason from Flagstaff isn't Big Game Boomer? He says, Jason, we are not scared of Arizona. He says, we know what they can do, but they struggle with physical teams. Well, State, too, as a team overall, they got a chance, again, to be pretty good. And I don't think they really started to be themselves, as a whole until they came out of the locker room in the second half and just sort of cut loose and were loosened up and settled in and really playing well. First half, not tentative, but just, I don't know, it was like getting the season started, and kind of getting your legs under you. And I'll tell you something else I saw defensively in the first half that you didn't see in the second half. In the first half, you had a largely veteran defense for State that kind of knows what they're doing. They're not having to think a whole lot. They know their roles. They know what their job is. And at times, guys are flying around wanting to pass the big lick, in certain situations. Like that screen pass, they let them convert on, 3rd and 20. And there were a couple of guys. One had to avoid the referee to try to make a tackle. Another safety comes in there. There's a few times where they're confident they're in the right place, but you're trying to throw that knockout blow when really you just got to wrap them up, get them on the ground. And, kind of playing physical, within the scheme of the defense rather than flying outside of it trying to do something special. And so they settled in and were just downright. They didn't give up hardly any yards in the second half of the ball game. I know at one point we looked up and there was like 3 or 4 minutes left in the game. And State had given up, I think it was 18 yards of offense in the second half. They just shut the door on them. Matt in Forest, a text on the Country Pleasing text line says that he felt like Colorado was the biggest story of the weekend, but Florida State was second. He said it was like watching Florida State in the 90s, just beasts on defense wearing single digits, just flying around. That's right. I remember that. Those great Florida State teams, there was always some dude or two on defense wearing a single digit. Just bull in a china shop, right? I mean, Colorado was. Okay, and some people have pointed this out today, both on the Murray West live thread, on the comments there on the live stream, and on the text line. But, I mean, TCU, they were embarrassed in the national title game, and hats off for them getting there. But then they lose some stuff. It's not like they had some vaunted defense coming into this year. It's just that most people felt like with all these transfers and all this turnover, there was no way that Deion team could be ready to go to a place like TCU and win. Man, they have a good team. That is a good football team when you watch Colorado. Maybe they won't beat Oregon. Maybe they get blown out by Oregon, whatever. But I just know watching them, I feel like Brando, who called in earlier, I didn't watch any of that Colorado game and go, this is a fluke. And Shedeur Sanders is legit big time good. He's fun to watch too. We'll wrap it up next. Stick around.
Have you ever wished for one product that would clean and shine almost everything in your house? Here it is. Clean and Shine. Like magic, Clean and Shine leaves a nice shine on fine wood furniture, so you don't need furniture polish. It cleans and shines mirrors, so you don't need glass cleaner for mirrors. It cleans and shines refrigerators, like this kitchen product. Even countertops, tile, and vinyl. Try new Clean and Shine, the foam that cleans and shines almost everything in your house.
Someday when people look at me, they'll say, there goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was.
TriStar Pictures presents Robert Redford in The Natural, the story of a father and a son.
You got a gift, Roy, but it's not enough.
Of love.
He means the world to me.
And desire.
I'm not waiting for true love to come along, Roy.
A champion.
Roy Hobbs comes along once, maybe twice in everybody's lifetime.
And his destiny.
With or without the records, they'll remember you.
Best there is now, and best there ever will be.
I wouldn't bet against me.
I already have.
Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, Barbara Hershey, Robert Prosky, and Richard Farnsworth as Red. The Natural.
Do you know me? Would you believe I'm Bugs Bunny? I'm also the voice of many other cartoon characters. But in here, they don't care if I'm Elmer Fudd. So I carry an American Express card, the one card I need for travel and entertaining, for business and pleasure. Why, without this, the only way I'd get any attention is by saying, that's all, folks.
To apply for a card, call 800-528-8000.
The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
The following is a presentation of TBS Sports. Exclusively on Superstation TBS. Superstation TBS presents the Atlanta Braves, America's team. Atlanta Braves baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers. This Bud's for you. By the official airline of the Atlanta Braves, Delta. We love to fly, and it shows. And by Eckerd Drugs, America's family drugstore.
If a man you've never met before suddenly gives you flowers, that's elation. The exciting new fragrance from Impulse.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm fink on a friend to get a promotion?
Yes, yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court.
I'm here to strip for Dan Fielding.
Thursday.
Oh, what a meal, oh,
Hamburger Helper Lasagna.
for your family.
Authentic Italian taste.
Hearty robusto, but not too spicy, eh?
Hamburger Helper Lasagna turns your plain hamburger into a delicious Italian meal with authentic Italian taste. Curly Italian noodles, rich tomato sauce, and a better blend of spices.
Hamburger helper. Lasagna.
Helper, hamburger helper.
Make a great meal, oh.
All right, back with you. I'm Matt in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. I really do appreciate everybody on the Murray West live thread dropping comments on YouTube, Facebook. Mark commented on YouTube, said, how many 15-plus yard pass attempts did Will Rogers attempt besides a touchdown to Creed? How many did he complete? They didn't attempt very many. You know, you had the one there, and then I think maybe the next farthest throw down the field was the go, or not go ball, but the post, the one-on-one post with no safety in the middle, which was second quarter on a 3rd and 1. When they were going to go for it on 4th down, they knew that. And he's trying to hit Justin Robinson on a post for a touchdown. Robinson had inside, ball kind of tailed on Will just a little bit, so he's about a yard behind. And so when Justin Robinson turned to find the ball, he kind of gave up on it because it was a little bit behind him. But I think that might be the only other one that they tried it in terms of pumping it that far down the field. Coming to the phone line, I know we got someone hanging here, but I want to pull this up. The explosive plays. Now, you and I might have different definitions of what an explosive play is. I will tell you, again, we could argue that, it's not even really worth it. But big plays, there's this official stats program that we all use, broadcast stuff, and it will spell it out for you, big plays. And it considers a big, not explosive, but a big pass play to be 15 or more yards and a big run of 10 or more yards. State had 4 pass plays in the game that went for 15 or more. Okay, you had a 15-yard play to Marks. You had a 32-yard play to Marks. I think both. One was a slant to Marks, the other that went for 15. The other was a screen that went for 32 that set up the touchdown. Then the 33-yard to, what's his name? The new kid, Whittemore, for the TD. And then you had a 17-yard play to Harmon. So your 15-plus passes that went for completions were 15, 32, 33, and 17. And you'd only have one of those more than 15 that went incomplete in terms of throwing a ball that far down the field. I guess two, actually. You could say the first third down where you had the little skinny seam in front of the safety on the first third down of the game. So maybe two of those that went incomplete. And in terms of rushes of 10 yards or more in that game, State had 7 of those for a total of 203. They had a 16, a 10, an 11, a 53 from Mike Wright, a 37 from Marks, a 23 from Marks, and then the 53 from Whittemore. So they had no, shortage of explosive plays. They had 2 pass plays that go for over 30 and 1 for a score, and then they had 3 rushes that went for over 30, 1 for a score, 2 that went for over 50 and a score. So they had some explosive plays. They didn't throw a ton of bombs, and maybe the game just didn't call for it. I don't know. All right, over to the phone line. Davini Equipment phone. Davini Equipment, Madison and in Jackson. Your Kubota dealer. Jason in Flagstaff, Arizona. What's up, Jason? Thanks for calling.
Nothing much. I just want to say that there is a big difference in trying to tell people, maybe you shouldn't just assume that State is going to waltz into the stadium and blow Arizona out. And, well, you got to be scared.
We ain't scared.
All I'm doing is trying to say that this team is not the same one that State played last year.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's like it's literally and figuratively true. Like figuratively because they improved. We caught them early last year, and they kind of improved some. And I think their quarterback has just gotten better and better. But literally because it's not the same team because they have that's what I've noticed. They got so many transfers that they're playing in their defensive front seven, or at least they did this past Saturday. So it's new people.
Yeah. But while I'm on here, I got a question for you. Do you see them putting Will Rogers and Mike Wright, back there together like Mullen used to with Tebow and Leak at Florida?
I would think all of that's on the table. Absolutely, Jason. I would think it's all on the table. I was thinking about this yesterday, too. I wonder what others' opinions would be. Somebody tweeted me, and they were like, here's the formation that showed Wright was at quarterback. They split Will Rogers out wide left. There were basically 4 receivers on the left side of the formation, you would think, because the tight end was on the end of the line. And then 2 slot guys in trips, but Will was on the line outside. So if Will Rogers is on the line outside left on the same side as a tight end, then the tight end's covered up and he can't go out, right? And so it got me to thinking there are some game plan situations where you will intentionally move, if you split him out, you will keep him off the line so that the tight end is uncovered, right? And you may, at the last minute, motion a guy across to put him on the line on the other side so that you have enough on the line where you'll trick a defense into thinking, okay, we saw it on film. They put Will Rogers out wide left. It covers the tight end up. The tight end can't go out. But now we've motioned so that he can go out, and the defense doesn't realize it. And we get a tight end wide open on a play action for a touchdown. So they will find ways when they've got them both on the field to use it to their advantage, else they wouldn't be doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know. That's complicated to me, but
yeah.
I wondered if they could just fling it out there real fast to him and then he chunk it up to somebody else.
Yeah. No, you definitely can do that.
Will Rogers.
Yeah. No, I mean, you absolutely can do that. And that I
All right. Well, I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And I would think, too, Jason, that again, this is totally just kind of like thinking out loud, seeing if my brain's sparking up there, and I'm thinking, okay, if you're going to do a backwards pass to a QB who's lined up wide left so that he can then, trick play, throw it up the field to somebody. It's got to be backward. And if you're in the shotgun taking a snap, it's hard to throw it backward because you're already 4.5, 5 yards deep, right? So I'm not even in the huddle, so I don't know. I'm just thinking if I were playing on defense, if I were coaching a future defense for State, against State, this is what I would say, is we would just cover it. I might cover it with my captain on defense, like if it's a linebacker. Look, here's something you got to be aware of, okay? If they put 2 quarterbacks in the game, they split one of them out wide, the one who can throw out wide. We got to be aware of their situation. They may go backward lateral so that he can then throw it up the field, trick play. Watch for the other guy under center. Okay, so you see what I'm saying? Let's say the formation has Will Rogers out wide left, but he's off the line. And quarterback is Mike Wright. He's going to take that snap. Will's going to retreat, and I'm going to throw the lateral back there. It's a little bit harder to take the shotgun snap 5 yards deep and then make sure he's deep enough for it to be a backward pass so that he could throw it again. But if I go under center, I take it one step back, zip. It's a whole lot easier for me to get that backward angle so that it's legal. So if your defense, just look. If you see that, you see him get under center, just be aware that may be going on. So what do you do to see if you're Kevin Barbay and you're designing the offense? You know that. You know a future defensive coach is going to bring that up in a meeting at some point. That is, if we got 2 on the field, pay attention to whether or not the guy's under center or in the shotgun, depending on down and distance. I mean, 3rd and 1's one thing, but if it's 2nd and 8 and he goes under center, he may just lateral that thing, and that might be why they're putting him under center. Well, if you're Barbay, you know they're going to talk about those things, so flip it on them. And go out here in week 2, they're both on the field, Will's off the line, Wright's under center, and what do? Snap, pump the lateral, and then bring it down and hand it back inside on like a power lead, like that, or even treat it like counter and pull the guard and tackle, and try to catch them, try to catch a linebacker running out of there or something. All those little chess pieces are things that happen from one week to the next. And you and I will watch a game and we'll see a play call and we'll think, oh, that's neat. They must have drawn that one up, thought it would work. But it might be much deeper than that. It might be that there's a whole package of 4 to 5 plays under one certain formation that is all based on stuff they put on film last week, knowing that the other guys have worked on such and such all week long. Little chess matches that we probably don't understand are even going on, but they do go on. And when you have a unique personnel set that, you just think about Arizona, for instance. How many teams is Arizona going to play this year where in defensive practice and meetings they have to prepare for the other team's 2 quarterbacks being on the field at the same time? It's not many. So if you're State, you got to use all that to your advantage. And that's, Barbay and the offensive staff are making big bucks because that's the things they have to figure out. All right, that wraps it up for today. Really fun show, y'all. Thank you so much for the texts, the calls, all the comments on the Murray West live thread. I'm going to see you tomorrow, same time, same place. For Beaver, I'm Matt. All of us here on the show. See you tomorrow.